Hello students, welcome to NJ Institute of Engineering and Technology. Here myself Mr. Jaswant Kishan from Civil Engineering Department, and we are learning all about earthquake engineering. So let's start our today's session. Now in today's session we will be learning some more interesting theories regarding design philosophy. So let's see. Now building configuration. So what is building configuration? So building configuration is nothing but how the building will look after the architect design. So whenever the architect design, it try to make such a creative kind of building, say with a long span or say with a long cantilevers or say very unequal type of shapes. So such buildings will not perform good during the earthquake. I'm not saying such building can't be constructed, but there will be some damages during the major earthquake in such kind of building. Now, the behavior of the building majorly depends on its shapes, in size, and how its the structural elements has been placed. So during the planning stage only, the architect and the structural designer must sit together and have finalized the best suitable design which can perform during the earthquake. Now, the behavior of the building, as I said, depend on shape, size, and geometry. Now, whenever the earthquake forces are carried to the ground, it has to be in a sufficient way that it can resist the forces. Hence, at the planning stage only, architect and structural engineer must work together to ensure the unfavorable features and should have a good building configuration. So, what are the points of good building configuration? So, they are: it should be simple and symmetrical throughout, horizontally and vertically. It should not be too elongated in plan or say in elevation. Have uniform and continuous distribution of strength, mass and stiffness so that the center of mass and the center of stiffness are close to each other. So as we know that the building is wide enough, so it have the major mass. So we should be planned in such a way that its center of mass and center of stiffness or say rigidity, it should be very much near. I would like to explain in another way that have you seen that the curved elevation bridge means we have majorly traveled through the straight vertical line bridge, but there are the chances where the circular kind of plan or say elevation of the bridge is given. So in such case, the center of mass and center of rigidity has been shifted. So in such case, there are chances of torsion effect or say there is a chances of bending in such kind of section. So we should try to plan in such a way that center of rigidity and center of stiffness must be same or say near to it. I would like to explain in one other way that if we place more number of maximum column on the one side and less number of the columns on the other side, then mass will shift it at one side. So the mass and center of rigidity will be shifted. There will be chances of twisting effect or say bending effect on the belt. So these are the points, and also horizontal members which form hinges before the vertical members. So as we recently studied that the strong column and weak beam theory. So what it says that the horizontal member should be weak than compared to the vertical member. It's a comparative say that it should not be like that it should be weak only. No, it should be not strong enough than the vertical member. Now be preferably without large cantilever projection. So obviously there must be no large cantilevers of our building there where there is no column. So it should be avoided. Next is have stiffness related to the soil properties. Obviously we should be check the properties of the soil before the designing and the planning stages. Now be without external elevator shafts and staircase well as they are undesirable and tend to act on their own in earthquake. So what it says that the location of staircase as well as the lift should be chosen in such a way that it act as a building member during the earthquake. It should not act as an individual member. Next is have sufficient ductility and be without re-entrant corners. So our building should be with a proper ductile and there will be no re-entrant corners. I will be showing that what are the re-entrant corners. So these are the some points regarding building configuration. We will be discussing in further slides. Look. So these are the images what kind of building should have and should not. Let's discuss one by one. Now look here, the building should not be too long. Now look, it's kind of a slender building where width is less compared to height. So this kind of building will not perform good during the earthquake. Obviously, such kind of building are also not being considered because it will resist this horizontal forces, but along this direction it will not perform in a good manner. So such kind of building should be avoided. Obviously, so much large span should be avoided. So what we can do? We can divide in a number of parts of such kind of buildings. So building with one of their overall sizes much larger or much smaller than other two do not perform well during the earthquake. What it says that it is vertically long than compared to two horizontal sides. So it can't perform in a good way. Similarly in these two cases also. Next is simple plan shape building do well during the earthquake. Now look, this is a simple plan. Okay, it will do good during the earthquake. This kind of building can also do good in earthquake. Now what about this? Now corners and curves are poor. Look, this X or say plus kind of building where this and these 4 points are re-entrant corner which are connected. They are likely to affect during the earthquake because look, if earthquake come in this direction, so this building will go upward side and this will also try to move, but this will can't act as a single unit. So this kind of corners should be avoided. This curve, so I have explained recently about the example of that bridge. Now this kind of building having center of mass and center of rigidity at two different points. So this kind of building may also avoid it. Now this curve will not perform equally or say not act as a building as a single unit during the earthquake. Okay, during this kind of waves they might get performed good, but what about in this kind of wave? Then there will be chances to have a great failure from this point. Similarly in T-shape, obviously there is a re-entrant corner, so we should avoid it. So what we can do in this type of building? So we can separate it out and make a simple form. Look, this was as an L-shaped building, but it has been separated from the joint, and at that point we can provide separation joint, so it will perform in a good way, or it should be provided at such a distance that there will be no deformation during the earthquake. Now separation joints make complex plan into simple. So these are my separation joints. Next is look, setbacks. So if this kind of plan or say building elevations are there, it look good, fine. But during earthquake, our structure engineer will get into the problems that this will not perform in a better way. We will, if there are chances that we have to make such kind of buildings, then we need to separate from this point and we have to provide such proper distance that during the earthquake sway they perform as a proper way. This kind of building, obviously this kind of building are disastrous because look, the heavier mass at the top will be sway drastically and there will be a breakage from over here. Now weak or flexible story. So now here you are looking that unusually tall story. Now these columns are of unusually with different height, or say it is a double story height than compared to the above. So this will not perform in a good way. Also there is a weak story at the bottom because above there is a huge mass, there is a floors then the bottom column should be strong enough to resist the forces. Sloping ground. In such kind of ground, there will be a effect of short column. I will be explaining this theory, short column effect. So now during this slopy kind of topography, or say on a hill, if a structure has been made, then this kind of structure are largely affected during the earthquake, because as the earthquake strikes, there will be major damages on the columns because they are of unequal heights. So they are not good during the earthquake. Obviously, floating column. So look here, there is a column, then there is no column, then there is a continuity of column, there is a continuity of column over here, but there is no continuity of a column over here as well as over here. So such columns are known as floating column. So because they are not resting on the column, or say they are not directly resting on the foundation, they are resting on the beam. Such kind of foundations or such kind of columns are avoided during the planning stages. The structure engineer must have such kind of plan that the through and through of beams and through and through of columns connections should be there. Distorting structural member. So look, some are of big sizes beams, some are of smaller sizes of beam. So this kind of beams should be avoided. A reinforced concrete wall is continued in the ground story. Obviously, there is a shear wall over here, and there is no shear wall at the ground story. So there will be no good transfer of load to the ground. There will be major disaster occur over here because the upper shear wall will perform good, but where it will be transferring its load, there is a chances of great disaster or say great damage during at that particular point. Now, sudden deviation in the load transfer path along the height lead to poor performance of the building. As I said, if a vertical irregularity is there, then there will be a poor performance. So as I have explained over here that there should be a separation joint. So during the earthquake, they can perform in their individual manner. Now, what we can do if it is an elongated building, such kind of building, so we have to separate from the between and to form a proper shape of the two different buildings. Two different blocks will perform in a good way rather than a single huge long enough elongated building. If it is an L shape, we can separate from the between over here, or say we can provide strengthening at the corners so it can perform in a good way, or we can stiffen at the ends. So these are all the alternatives what we can do. If it is an I shape, then we have to separate from the joints. These are recommended. So next here is rigid diaphragm action. Now it's a very simple theory. What it is? Now look, this is a slab resting on column. So as we know that a slab contains a huge mass. So during the earthquake, they are the main influencer during the swing. So our diaphragm or say entire slab, which is considered as a diaphragm, should be act in a rigid way. That entire slab should be moved in a similar way as back and forth or say side by side. It should be act in a similar way. Now what if it not act in a similar way? What will in such kind of diaphragm? If it is a flexible, then if it move in a irregular manner, then there will be chances of accumulation of force or say overloading will occur, due to which the column will fail. So our slab or say diaphragm should be act in a rigid way that it can transfer load equally, or say it can transfer load to the beams and then to the columns in a smooth way. So what will happen in this kind of flexible diaphragm? Then this kind of action or say behavior will not good or say not sustain to the columns. Now, it is not good to have a building with large plan to aspect ratio. Just like it's not good in a building, as we have seen recently in the building that large span buildings are not good, we have to separate it. Now, during the earthquake shaking, inertia force mobilized in the building usually at the floor because the mass is large over there. Now the inertia force in them will distributed to different lateral load resistance systems such as columns or say structural walls. Now it is preferred to distribute in a lateral inertia force to various lateral load resisting system in a proportion to their lateral load resisting capacity. So as what it says that it should be distribute the forces as per its particular capacity. So this will give the better loading transfer, but this will not. Now this is achieved when the floor slab do not perform too much in their own horizontal plane. Now this condition when the floor slab helps in distributing the inertia force to different lateral load resisting system, the proportion of their stiffness, it is related to the stiffness, is known as rigid diaphragm action. I would like to repeat that the condition when floor slab help in distributing the inertia forces to the particular member according to their capacity or say according to their stiffness. So this action is nothing but my rigid diaphragm action. However, inertia force is distributed based on tributary area when floor slab reform in their plane. It will be only happen whenever they perform in their own plane or say deformation occur in their own particular plane and not out of their plane. Now this lead to overloading. If it not, then this lead to its overloading of the member than its capacity, causing undue damage. Obviously, floor slab is in a building with a large plan aspect ratio greater than 4 maybe not good or say maybe avoided. So this was the rigid diaphragm action. Next is pounding. So what is pounding? So if there are two buildings side by side, then whenever the earthquake waves come, there are chances that these two buildings get collide. So if the building is shorter than compared to the another one, then the shorter one will try to hit to its column, one of the side of the column, and there are chances to break up that column, and this will lead to the failure of the particular building. So the pounding should be avoided. So this can be avoided by providing sufficient distance between two buildings, and also this slab should be in alignment to this slab. Then there will be no such kind of condition will occur. So pounding can occur between adjoining building due to horizontal vibration of the two buildings. So when two buildings are too close to each other, they may pound on each other during the strong shaking. With increase in the building height, this collision can be greater problem. Now when building height do not match, the roof of the shorter building may pound on the mid height of the particular floor of the taller building, and this can be very dangerous. The damage due to pounding may be minimized by providing proper separation between the building. As I said, there should be a proper separation between the building, and by aligning floors of the adjacent building. So as I said, the alignment of the floors should be proper, or say should be in the same plane, or say at the same height, so it can perform well during the earthquake. So this was just a small theory of pounding. So these are some of the case. Look, the pounding has affected over these two buildings. Obviously, such kind of places where pounding may affect. Look, it's an L kind of shape. So during earthquake waves, they act not in proper way, or say there is no proper separation joint has been provided. So such kind of problem arises. Obviously, in our city areas, or say in some of the places where such kind of pounding action may happen, this kind of situation may arise. So this was all.